Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of duty, patriotism, the adventure, travel, and adrenaline. When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports, the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Hello, this is Jason with Operation Motorsport. We'd like to introduce you to some of our beneficiaries who were active during the GT World Challenge SRO race at New Orleans Motorsport Park this past weekend.
This weekend I've been working with Steve over on GT4 and with Charlie over on the TC cars, doing the tech inspections for them, checking the ride height, weight, camber, and also the tire pressure and things like that. When they come back from the races, then the top 3 or top 5, depending on the class, have to come through and get everything checked all over again to make sure that they ran the race within the regulations. Sometimes we have to pull some parts and measure those. It all depends on what comes down from the technical director. Operation Motorsport has actually done a lot for me in a really short period of time. It's pretty amazing to feel part of a team again and have some kind of a purpose. It's really, really amazing. And the value for me, at least, it goes way beyond just oh, it's very cool that I'm learning how to do ride height on cars. Yeah. That is absolutely not the main value for me.
Yeah.
You feel like you got some worth, man.
Yeah,
worth something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. In here, I feel like I can contribute. I mean, it's not a big contribution, but it doesn't matter. Even in the military, somebody's got to get the food ready.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I can help here. I can do stuff. I can learn stuff.
Yeah.
People are patient. Nobody acts like I'm stupid if I ask a silly question.
Yeah.
I'm learning. You know, and it feels really nice to be somewhere where I can learn something that I'm actually interested in and feel part of a team and there's people I can count on, things like that.
Well, I think
so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's done a lot for me.
On average, 22 veterans from North America commit suicide every single day. That's one veteran for every second of this video.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 4th round of the 5th season of Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, live from iRacing's virtual Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia. I'm your host, Rachel Wyford, joined by my guest in the booth tonight, Joe Peak, or my colleague, I should say. And our producer for the evening is always Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras created by the great Dougie Beard. Well, we come to one of Virginia's crown jewels, Joe, of motor racing, the much vaunted Virginia International Raceway. We'll be hearing more about that later in the partnership of Operation Motorsport with VIR, but you've had a lot of experiences here.
Absolutely, called a lot of races here, drove a lot of races here, and it is a very technical track, so expect this to test the drivers in a big way. Sometimes compared to the Nürburgring as sort of an American answer to that, but much shorter, and that it's so twisty and windy and narrow as well. There are passing opportunities because there's some very long straights that you can utilize to try and get up beside people, but each time they're often hard to try and overtake. You look down into the roller coaster towards the end of the lap. It's hard to try and outbrake someone into there safely without getting into trouble. Most likely you're going to see them into the horseshoe in that first turn, but keep an eye out because places such as South Bend and Oak Tree are also going to trip people up, and there's not a lot of runoff in some of those spots.
No, there is certainly not, and we do have quite a challenging lap for these guys, as you mentioned, often referred to as America's Green Hell. This track obviously hosts a lot of car days, car weekends. There are places you can stay here as a resort and actually drive the track on track days whilst camping, well, living, I should say, in the lodges around the track. So a racing resort of sorts, really. But this place did go through a period of time where it closed, of course, Joe. I believe that was in the 80s and 90s, but it has been brought back to a beautiful standard.
Absolutely. It's one of those rare cases where a racetrack closes down and is not only brought back to life, but honestly better than it was before. I'd say it has more notoriety now than it did in its initial run, and has had very high-end series start to race here, as well as having those track days and whatnot, and club races that take place here. So, and the even cooler part about it is, while a lot of modern tracks have had to make concessions and try to do things to change layouts to make them a little bit safer, this is the same layout as its first incarnation. They didn't change a thing, so credit to the team that brought this thing back to life.
It really is. Well, a little bit about Operation Motorsport that we are here, of course, as part of. Operation Motorsport is a not-for-profit veterans organization operated from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I believe also from Canadian side of the border in Brighton, Ontario. So I was trying to find the name of that one there. It serves Canadian and American service members and veterans and was founded on the basis of 3 simple words: to excite, to engage, and to empower. The premise is to engage ill and injured service members and veterans affected by their military service through motorsport activities to aid in their recovery and rehabilitation. To find out more, please visit operationmotorsport.org. Well, speaking of Operation Motorsport, we're going to bring in Jason Leach right now, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Operation Motorsport. Jason, welcome back to the booth again. We hear you have some interesting stories, should we say, about your partnership with VIR. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Oh, sure, guys. Absolutely. Again, thanks for having me tonight. I'm a poor substitute for Mike Rose, one of our main partners from Virginia International Raceway, but glad I could step in. I know there were some technical difficulties with getting the recording earlier this week. So, VIR. First off, this place holds a special place in my heart. It's where I first got introduced when I picked up my track car many, many years ago, and then really got to know Operation Motorsport a bit more. But from an Operation Motorsport perspective, this track in 2017 was the first track that Operation Motorsport activated at in the United States. So it is absolutely worth mentioning that our history from on the United States side, this is where it all started. through Diesel and Tiffany Lauder, their partnerships and in connections with IMSA, they were able to activate at this race in 2017 with a handful of volunteers. Since then, we've done a little bit of champ car racing. Even Dustin Burkhalter was working with Paul Morrow earlier this year in the 24-hour champ car. So, VIR is a great track, and it's been a huge benefit to promoting our organization and helping us move forward.
And speaking of that organization moving forward, a big event coming up very soon, in fact in November, is the Race of Remembrance. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so for those who are not aware, the Race for Remembrance takes place over our Veterans Day weekend in November, or Remembrance Day, depending on what part of the world you're in. This 12-hour endurance race takes place at Anglesey Circuit in Wales, UK. But what's really important about this race is on Sunday, the race is red flagged, and there's a remembrance ceremony that takes place on pit lane. If you're a military member, you're asked to don your service uniform. If you're a veteran, you're asked to don your headgear and medals, and just pay remembrance to the sacrifices of military members and veterans in this very somber event. And also, we are the only North American contingent to go. So we go forward. We've got about 40 people we're taking over this year. Race 2 cars, thanks to Skip Barber Racing, 2 Honda Civic Type Rs. And just found out today they're going on the boat next week out of Norfolk, Virginia to start making their trek across the pond. We'll pick those cars up around November 6th or 7th, I believe, and then get them to the track, get them ready, and go racing.
That'll be exciting. I'm sure we'll have some more news coming up as that date gets closer. Obviously, we heard some interesting stories from you about the beneficiaries of Operation Motorsport, but we heard about the wonderful hand control stories from Resilience Racing. Can you give us any more stories from the beneficiaries of Operation Motorsport?
If we look at Hunter Reed, for example, right? I think he's racing tonight, and I think you guys are going to showcase him a little bit later on. But he's one guy, him and Theo, plus a handful of other beneficiaries that came forward earlier this year to want to partake a bit more into Race for Remembrance. So this year we're going to be fielding 2 teams, a U.S. team and a Canadian team, a little friendly rivalry, if you will, between our organizations. But they attended a 5-day Skip Barber Racing School up at Lime Rock Motorsports Park earlier this summer, successfully completed that 5-day course, which then made them eligible for their SCCA national license. And now we'll be putting Hunter behind the car to represent the U.S. side, beneficiary side, and then we're going to put Theo behind the wheel in the Canadian car. And they're going to race in the Race for Remembrance. This is a huge step for our program. In the past, we've only brought beneficiaries forward to be crew members, take those skills they learned across SRO, IMSA, FEO Motorsports series, and put together that team to campaign the car. But now it's going to be a bigger package with actually having beneficiary drivers and behind the wheel.
Out of interest, is this something that Operation Motorsport is looking towards for the future? Not just, of course, the pit crew side of things, but also the driving?
We keep toying around with that idea. We've discussed maybe getting into Champ Car a bit more on that kind of level. One of our long-term goals is to take the Race for Remembrance concept that takes place in the UK, but try to bring it here to North America. So there's some potential opportunities in there. We could also look at Le Mans teams. We've talked about karting in the past, so kind of sky's the limit, right? So it's just all about, when opportunity presents itself, that we have the staff and the bandwidth and the partnerships to make those opportunities happen.
Tell you what, you guys should take a Humvee to Lemons. I think that would be a stellar idea.
I think worst case, we could blaze some new trails and probably drive over some of the competition.
There you go. That's an option, of course. Jason, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe we'll get a chance to chat to you during the race at some point, but thank you very much for talking to us.
Absolutely. Good luck tonight, guys. Looking forward to the broadcast.
Thank you so much. That's Jason Leach, the Chief Operating Officer of Operation Motorsport. Well, if you're new to the series, the classes are thus. We have 3 classes in tonight's race. We have the pros. They are competition license holders, both past and present, and iRacers with a road rating above 1900. They are in GT3 cars. They're blue on your screen. Then we have the open class. They are active service members and Operation Motorsport supporters. They are in GT4. The beneficiaries class there in green. Those are the beneficiaries of Operation Motorsport and involved in their programs. also in GT4. So 3 classes, 2 cars, and a lot of drivers. And we come to the grid now in perfect timing to go through your starting order. Starting on the pole tonight, Tyler Glamet with a great time there of 1 minute 45.462 around the green hell, with Hunter Reeve in second place. Third place is Matt Smotherman. We've got those two both beneficiaries that have moved up into pro due to being too darn fast. Rodney Campbell in third, Mario Gonzalez in fifth, Martin Wallace sixth, Ed Nelson in seventh, with Jake Steinbrink in eighth, Taylor Parsons in ninth, Daniel Curio in the 10th spot. Behind them is Dustin Burkhalter, Scott Andrews, and Jason McSparron rounding out your pro class. And behind them, Connor Parisi leading off the beneficiaries, with Jesse Elliott leading the open class. Moses Smotherman, brother of same, is second in open. Adam Poppenhaus is second in the beneficiaries, with Greg Meismet third for the beneficiaries. Third for the open class, Thomas Utzin there, with fourth for the beneficiaries, Brock Hogan. Behind them is fifth for the beneficiaries, John Winker, and fifth there we have for the open, Bradley Beamon. Behind them, Val Asieno for the open, Brian Winker open, Rick Haslett for same, Philip Chartier from the beneficiaries, with Charles Boschel and Jake Porter for the open class. Then it's Papa Knight and Josh Schneider for the beneficiaries. David Holly for open, Elliot Whitfield and Chris isn't running, of course, as always, from the beneficiary there, and Richard Lanning, who has not set a time. Well, we're getting ourselves ready to move away into the pace car here, Joe, as I think this is your first time working with Operation Motorsport on this particular event, is it not?
It is. I've done stuff with them both in esports through other leagues like charity events, and I've actually gotten to talk about them a little bit in the real world recently at an SRO race, but never have done it on the sim. So I'm excited to get to see how this goes.
Well, you'll be in for a treat. This is one of the cleanest, most sporting series that I've had the pleasure of commentating. It was only 2 rounds ago at Sonoma that a competitor pushed the leader of the open class, who was out of fuel around the last couple of corners, to win his class. So it was a very, very special moment. But these guys are absolutely fantastic when it comes to racing. We have a very long pace lap around here. A little quick reminder for the Inter-Service Unofficial Championships for this 5th season. So far, Army is sitting on 9 points. The Air Force is on 5. The Marines are on 2 points. The Navy have a life ring, 0. The Coast Guard have their honorary 10 points for taking part, and the Space Force is on -30 for existing.
I've heard about the jokes about the Space Force and the contributions to this, but I love the friendly rivalry that they have going for that between the different branches of the services. I wonder if there's what the stats are like between them as far as the makes of cars. Does one tend to prefer a different type over the other?
I don't think so. It seems to be very much on the meta of iRacing is what the car really is decided by. But we'll find out. You never know. It can go in multiple different directions. I can tell you, though, officially, that the Space Force did try to enter a car this season. Unfortunately, the pit crew did not pass tech because they had too many arms. It was unfair. You know, they could change the tire in much quicker time.
I'm sure there's other technology that probably quite didn't work its way through, and although I'm sure some teams are very interested in that, but you know, speaking of technology, like I said, such a technical track, especially through that portion there that we saw the climbing S's, one of the quickest parts and huge changes of directions into the South Bend right there. That's going to be another place to really keep your eye on here, because the car is going to be shifting weight so often, and into that left-hander, you're trying to just tap the brakes and send it through there. So you're going to see guys wind up just clipping the grass on the exit and spinning across the track. I can almost guarantee it'll happen at least once in this race. It's so hard to avoid at this track.
It absolutely is, and it's a tricky one. We've had a lot of guys spinning off the track on their own in practice and qualifying. They call it Green Hell for a reason. It is a very tricky circuit here, but we look forward to, of course, seeing just how well they can perform. I think the first section is probably one of the hardest with a big crowd of cars, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that one, Joe, as always, as we come down this long back straight here. But the roller coaster section down here is a tough one, but 1, 2, and NASCAR really tend to weed out cars.
Absolutely. The horseshoe is a lot trickier than you'd think because it does have that double apex, and it is kind of a late first apex, that one. So it really invites you in, but it does, as I said earlier, offer probably the best passes. It's really NASCAR Bend that has that curved braking zone that's going to catch so many of them out because they're going to try and push the limits and just step over it.
Absolutely is. Well, we're coming down to the start-finish line now. The pace car will pull off, leaving the field at the command of Tyler Guillemette of your Pro class to start tonight's motor racing festivities. The car will dive off, waiting for the green flag, and we'll get ourselves going in just a second. Green flag flies, here they go, and it's a reasonably good start by Guillemette until they're on the outside. Reeve having a good run here. Smotherman as well just behind him. 3 hungry cars at the front there getting ready to go. Behind them, Parisi and Elliott, they're going already. It's an absolute cluster in your open and beneficiary class towards the front of that group there. All over each other here as they come into the first corner. This double apex right-hander that always comes back on itself. 180 degrees. We've got a couple of cars off behind them in the grass. Going for a little bit of spin early on. Everyone clearing through now for the double lefts. It's very congested here, Joe.
Yeah, this is where it's always the most dangerous part of the race, is just trying to sort yourself out. I always tried to take the approach of just get through this and settle in, but not everybody thinks like that. You get some very aggressive drivers at times that know you can take advantage of drivers that are maybe a little bit more timid in this, and those aggressive drivers have a high risk versus reward situation in their hands because, yes, they can gain a lot, but you can also throw so much away.
It really can, and honestly, at the moment, it's about getting this pacing down for this first lap. They're all trying to get themselves comfortable here. Guillemette still leading all the way in your pros. They're pretty comfortably there in the Mercedes, ahead of Reeves' Ferrari. And behind again, it's Smotherman in a Mercedes. So there's a German sandwich going on right now. Although no, Smotherman's up to second at the Ferrari. Sorry, Reeves is in the Mercedes behind. So that would make Smotherman the meat in that German sandwich there. Behind them is Parisi and Elliott. Of course, we really do tend to see a general race between the open and beneficiary classes of here, Joe. And no matter which order they end up being in, right now it's Elliott towards the rear there. Parisi is in second place here as Poppenhaus really benefited early. He's up to the lead of the class.
Indeed, he's trying to make good on this, but he's not running away. Connor is right on his tail. This is where he's really got to use it. You need a good exit out of Hog Pen, and then it's a long stretch down to the horseshoe. Look at this, though. There's 3 of them, and there was a slip up there from Elliott. Unfortunately, that Aston could not find grip.
Really seem to struggle, unfortunately, as they come across the line now in towards turn 1 for the second time this race. We have, of course, 30 minutes in the racing event, and it does vary somewhat. Now, an interesting curiosity for me, I'm seeing 8 minutes sim time elapsed. Does the sim count pace laps into your total race time?
It doesn't count it as part of the race time, but it does count it. So you can't always go by that time. And in scoring within the sim, a little bit of contact though there for third. Once again, it's Elliott. This time he gets a touch from, it looks like, Smotherman there in the 89.
It does indeed. Smotherman getting a little bit sideways there, but everyone collects it and keeps themselves on track here. One of my favourite sections coming up for these guys now, this dive up as we're looking at the pros there. But this back straight, we're seeing a fantastic section of the track, so high speed, leading into a big crest and down through the roller coaster there into that final sector of the lap. So much flow to it, so much, fluidity. And as we see just behind them, the guys coming around the oak tree. Rest in peace. We were talking before the show, Joe, about how you could buy for about $200 a 6-inch piece of said oak tree. It's quite sad. I think Cameron, our social media expert, Cameron Obernon, check out all the stuff there on the Podium Twitter, but she was suggesting they should have built the podium at VIR out of the wood from the oak tree, which would have been a far better ending for it.
Absolutely. I feel like that would have really endeared a lot of people, especially to any of the podium ceremonies. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, I suppose, in this situation this week.
Joke.
I didn't even think about that. That was unintentional. I promise. That was
car
unintentional.
Off ahead here. Car off ahead of your beneficiary and open class leaders. It's one of the open class Porsches there. I believe looking down, that was the 119 of McSparren, who had gone wide there. Managed to keep himself off the racetrack though. I'll start finish line again, and we're getting some more action here. Popping out, still controlling this race here. in the 12th. Oh, the inside goes to 25 there of Elliott, goes sliding through. And Parisi in the mix as well. Off he goes. He went too deep. Oh, wow. Yeah, brakes are useful, I think we discovered.
Yeah, Elliott's been a bit of a loose cannon, unfortunately, and that's going to cost him there. Looks like Winker's going to get by, and then Beeman wanted to, but couldn't quite execute on that one. So now looks like Connor's going to lead the way with Smotherman behind him, and Poppenhaus gets shuffled back to third with all the craziness happening around him, which is not exactly ideal, but at least he's still running up with the front group. I think that's the positive you can take out of this.
I think it is absolutely the positive we can take from this. He's keeping himself in the right place, but it's going to be a little bit of work to recoup what he had there. And of course, the tyres will be a little bit grassy. So he'll need a minute to get himself back up to full speed here. But Poppenhaus still leading. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to be Parisi leading the way there. In a wonderful Mercedes. Not that I'm biased in the slightest, but it's a great car. Behind him, I believe we're looking at Mason Smotherman there in second place in that Aston you mentioned earlier. Utzon got through as well, as did Meismer, so there's going to be a lot of shuffling here.
Aston's by far the most popular of the makes in this these GT4 cars right now, so you'll see a lot of them scattered throughout, but Mercedes is leading the way, and Connor's dealing with the pressure quite well now that he's taken this over. Hasn't really given an inch to Mason at this stage. This is going to be telling, though, especially if Mason can get a run. What's this going to look like for the second go, but with Connor leading the way?
We'll have to see. It's usually that same group of drivers. We see Poppenhaus, Elliott, Parisi, and Smotherman up there doing the hard work. But a little bit further back, we've got a couple of little bits of groupings going on. A lot of cars separating out, though, further back in our field. We do have some running around Winker. Oh, little contact there. He goes off, actually, the first corner.
Yeah, Winker got edged off by Elliott, it looks like, and that sent him into the grass. He still has a couple other in his class that are coming by. Looks like Chartier and Brian Winker. There's two of them out there. So that was John, the one that went off amongst them. We still watch that front group. And man, the more that they fight here, Rachel, the more they're just allowing everybody behind to make this a bigger and bigger battle, which is great for us, but that's bad if you're Smotherman up there at the front.
Absolutely, yeah. Smotherman got himself through to leading the grouping of GT4 cars here. Behind him, though, it is going to be Parisi trying to keep him honest. Poppenhaus just behind him. Utzon, Meismer, Hogan, McSparren there from the GT3 Pro class there. We've got Winker just behind that grouping. He's had to drop all the way back, we mentioned earlier. But a big lot of cars here, like 6 cars. And McSparren unable to really get ahead of these guys, although he will on the straight be able to pass them. I wonder how many he can get before he reaches the end of this section here, because it's not a lot of them.
Yeah, Hunter Reeve still carefully trying to see what he can do from third place here, and he's been closing in on Matt Smotherman for some time, and now they're hitting the lap traffic. That's Josh Schneider in front of them. It actually worked out okay-ish for Matt as Reeve had to avoid. Oh, behind them, though, big wreck. Campbell, he's in the wall.
Yeah, we'll take a look back at what happened to Rodney Campbell there. There was a slow car on the apex. I believe that was going to be the 33 machine. Was slow on the track, and he just had to go wide to avoid, caught some grass and spun out hard and went straight into the tire barriers, full side on there. Unfortunate for him. That'll be some serious damage to that race car. A slow impact.
And he actually just had more contact with Ed Nelson coming up the climbing S's, and that sent Nelson careening off into the barrier in the end. So it's been a tumultuous lap there for that teal Mercedes.
Very unfortunate for him there, but we'll get them going, of course, as we see... Oh, another car off the track just to the inside there, I think that was, as he's returning back to his regular positioning. Yeah, keeping himself flown again, but looking towards the sharp end. Hunter Reeve is really trying here. He's lost a little bit of ground on the 84 Smotherman, but oh, big impact for Nelson. Oh gosh.
Yeah, there's that replay on what happened to him. Got hit once, and then when he came back across the track, I'm not sure who it was that tipped him, but he just got kind of sent into the barrier there. He decided to take a tow on that one. These GT4s, though, are making things fun. As somebody had a bit of a spin or something back there. I saw a lot of smoke. That looks like that was Bradley Beeman. Oak Tree tends to do that, Rachel. It's another curved braking zone, and unfortunately, it's hard to get it just right and balance the car.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it's the grief that the Oak Tree is missing that makes the balance in that corner so difficult for the drivers. So unfortunately, there beam on a little bit of a traffic jam for him. But we're seeing the GT3 machine of Max Barron working his way through your leaders now from the GT4 class. Just about making it through. Coming across the line, though, that will be your GT3 cars, I think. It's not them, actually. It's towards the front end of our field. I was on replay. I love it when I do that. Do you always get that to happen to you, Joe?
Yeah, don't just lose track of what exactly we're looking at. It's easy to do.
You're live and you're wound back looking at a replay of something in Sim, and you can just be like, oh, what is happening now? No, it's not. It was a minute ago. Either way, coming through towards NASCAR Bend again here for the GT4 class. Very close between your two leaders there. Parisi there and Smotherman on top of each other, and I've got to say, Smotherman looking like the quicker car at the moment.
Yeah, ever since he lost that back to Parisi, he's trying to quickly overtake, get the track position here, which around this place can be pretty important, especially if you're so close on pace. It's kind of amazing that they've swapped it around as much as they have. It is an extremely narrow track, so trying to get an overtake done can often be pretty fraught, as we've seen, as cars can try to make contact, even between classes already.
Yeah, absolutely can, and it definitely gets a little hectic at times for us, but at the moment, everyone keeping relatively clean. All the incidents we've had, we just noted there, Ed Nelson has retired from the pro race. They've all been very much self-initiated. There've not been any real contact-initiated events. We're getting mostly contact after an incident. So it's not fault here, it's really just, unfortunately, the track is only wide enough occasionally for one car to crash at a time.
Indeed, and let's see if it's wide enough for Smotherman and Reeve, because Hunter's still really hounding him here. This is still for that second place, and they haven't lost touch with Guillemette. I think that's the important thing in this race, is that the 5, though he's got a little bit of a buffer here, he's not exactly running away from them, and now that they're catching up to more traffic, I wonder if that could give them a chance to maybe not just fight for the best of the rest here, but for the overall win.
Entirely possible, and the gap, of course, 8 seconds back to Martin Wallace there in 4th place in the pro class. So quite a big gap for them to deal with, but Hunter Reeve absolutely keeping Smotherman honest. These two both beneficiaries who've moved up to this pro class due to being too darn fast. Oh, car off ahead of them, who's going to be rejoining an awkward spot there. Some movement going on. We're getting out of the way of this one, as that's your, I think that's your class leaders from GT4 there getting past it. No, it's not.
But there goes Matt Smotherman. Matt Smotherman's gone off at Hogpen. That's going to hand it over to Reeve. So he's now in the 2nd place and can try and chase down Guillemette. But yeah, it was those GT4s just were, they didn't do anything wrong, Rachel. They were just at the wrong place at the wrong time is all.
A tricky place to really have that balance out. And I think one of the cars that might have also been involved there, wasn't involved, no, that was Papa Knight down there. He was just running his line. It's an awkward spot for it to happen and just got a little wide there, did Smotherman. He didn't crash, didn't have a major issue, just ran wide, had to slow it down to stop himself spinning. We've also got Snyder has retired from beneficiary class right now, but as we're heading towards the halfway point, we're going to try and get Jason Leach back in for a quick chat as we go on with the race here. So, Jason, do we have you?
You do.
Awesome. Well, back coming towards the halfway point in this race tonight, and I believe from what I've been told, our beneficiary spotlight tonight is going to be Hunter Reeve. Can you tell us anything more about him that we're not going to see or listen about in that little piece?
He's been with Operation Motorsport for a couple of years now in the beneficiary status, but he's got a great relationship with Tooth Autosport and Travis Hill. So Tooth Autosport, for those that are not aware, is one of our partner teams up at Calabogie Motorsport Park in Canada. But Travis is also a board member and volunteer within our organization. He completely opens up his doors for our beneficiaries to come in and learn what it's like to be on a race team. He runs a driver's program as well. He's been instrumental in helping guys like Hunter, like Theo, get behind the wheel and get a little bit of experience to kind of assess and then lead to where now, again, as mentioned earlier, they're going to be driving for us in the Race for Remembrance. He's also doing that with one of our volunteers, a guy by the name of Jake Porter, who's still currently serving in the Army, in the Canadian Army. So, yeah, Travis and Tooth Autosports, again, came on board with us early on in our history, and has just been a tremendous partner with us.
I think we're seeing pit stops happening, so you have to give us a moment to work out what's actually happening here on the racetrack, as we did get some changes, of course, from the last couple of rounds. Jason, I'll ask you that, in fact, specifically. After Road America, I believe fuel was dropped down to 45%, correct?
Yeah, I believe that's Chris Ramirez, our e-motorsports manager, elected to make that call to kind of force everybody to come up with a little bit of strategy.
I think that's very likely to happen at a big throttle track like VIR. We're going to be seeing those. It seems to be about now, so we'll keep our eyes on that one as it evolves. Now, we are approaching our halfway point, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about Hunter Reeve. We'll be back to you in just a second here, Jason. Hunter, currently married to his wife Tamara, who graciously tolerates his hobbies, have 2 fur babies, 1 dog and 1 cat. He joined the Army in 2011 as the US Army, where he spent time in Korea in 2015. He left the military in 2017 after more than 6 years of service. Currently, he's back at school and working part-time, and when not engaged in school, work, or all things motorsports, he also enjoys fishing, reading, and biking. He's benefited from sim racing in many ways, and specifically through Operation Motorsport, he's been welcomed into a community of people with similar backgrounds with a means for engagement outside of real life. Due to some health issues he faced, his mental health took a toll. iRacing has given him a tool to help him intensely concentrate and forget about his situation. This year, Hunter attended a 5-day race school at Lime Rock Park held by Skip Barber in preparation for being one of the beneficiary drivers for Operation Motorsport's entry into the Race of Remembrance. That is our mid-race break there in our veteran spotlight there, beneficiary spotlight on Hunter Reeve this time. He is currently running in 2nd place in your pro class there. He got moved up, as did Matt Smotherman, due to being fast. But in our classes right now, it is Tyler Glamet with Hunter Reeve and Matt Smotherman from the top 3 in pro, with Connor Parise, Brock Hogan, and Adam Poppenhaus for the beneficiaries, with Mason Smotherman, Bradley Beeman, and Brian Winker for your open class. Jason, the program there at Lime Rock Park, can I ask, did Hunter have any race experience before, actually real-world racing experience before he went to that?
He's had, he did have a little bit, if I recall correctly, up in Canada, again, through Tooth Autosport, as far as getting behind the wheel and getting some seat time, but he never attended a proper racing school. So, Skip Barber was able to take what he currently had, build upon his skills, but teach him some racecraft where he was dropping seconds off his time by the end of the week. And then again, in what you see here, where he's just at the top of the pro class here, I think if you look back at his iRacing experience a couple seasons ago, he was not running at the top of the class as consistently as he is now. So he's definitely made a lot of improvements in both the virtual and real world.
We had a little bit side by side by your GT4 leaders there on the screen, but no position changes at the time being. And obviously, you mentioned earlier, you guys have bounced the idea back and forth over time of driving side of things with Operation Motorsport. Obviously, perhaps the esports side here that you guys brought out during the pandemic opened new avenues for Operation Motorsport. And this may be a question you can't answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm sure people would love to know. Are there any blue sky ideas out there that you guys would love to achieve if the right partner was on board to assist?
Are we talking virtual or real world?
Let's go for anything.
Okay.
Real world and virtual.
Yeah, so it's a lot of it is just finding more partnerships across the 3 series that we're in. So IMSA, SRO, and FEO Motorsports. Finding the right teams that are willing to host a beneficiary, give an opportunity for a medically releasing or retiring service member to come back and see that they can still be part of that team that gives them an identity and a purpose as they try to figure out the next chapter in their life. For us, that's our main goal as we move forward. Outside of maybe someday having a complete race hauler with Operation Motorsport bannered across it, where it's all military veteran style of a team at the professional racing level series. That for us is just finding more teams to give more people more opportunities.
Fantastic aspiration there. It'd be wonderful one day to actually see that, an actual Operation Motorsport team entering one of these series. Truly something that would be very exciting to see there. And you know what? I think the one thing we haven't asked before we let you go, tell us about you. Tell us about who Jason Leach is, where you came from, and how you arrived at Operation Motorsport.
Sure. So, like a lot of the guys that activated with us, I was coming to the end of my career. I served 28 years in the Army, and I was trying to figure out what was next. I got introduced to motorsports and track days, again, having my own track car and stuff, and I kind of felt like there's a lot of parallels between motorsports and military. Those small team dynamics, that working together, person on your left to right, all those things we've talked about in the past. So I volunteered with Core Motorsports in the Michelin Pilot Series. I'm a big Mustang guy, and Dean Martin was nice enough to allow me to come out to Mid-Ohio and get to be a part of the team on a volunteer basis in 2019. And then that's when I met Tiffany and Diesel. They were there during their IMSA gig, and Diesel came into the paddock there, was talking to the Core Motorsports guys, not knowing at the time that Core Motorsport had a relationship with Operation Motorsport. And I heard Diesel talking about jumping out of planes, and I said, there's somebody I got to meet. He's obviously a veteran. So I went up, introduced myself, told him who I was and everything, and he asked me if I'd heard of OPMO. I said, yeah, very briefly, and had submitted some information to them the week prior. He's like, well, who'd you talk to? I said, I don't know, this person named Tiffany. And he said, hold on a second. And he went and got Tiffany and brought her in, and she looked at me, I introduced myself. She's like, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, well, listen, I'm trying to find opportunities in this world. And that's really where it started, the relationship with me and Operation Motorsport, coming on board as an event coordinator, coming on board just to find ways to make the organization better, try to move us forward, because we're still young. We've only been around 5 years. But then asking to come on board as a COO earlier this year, and just continue to challenge us, continue to make us better every day, every year. But like I mentioned earlier, finding more and more opportunities for our beneficiaries, to where we're creating the right programs to serve and to help the people that can truly benefit from it.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Love getting to hear from you, Jason. It's always exciting to hear what Operation Motorsport has in the pipeline and currently going on. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Love the broadcast, guys. Really appreciate it.
Well, Joe, a lot of action on track, although we had some separation. A couple of guys going to pit road, but it's really now Parisi and Smotherman who have separated off there. The gap has gotten pretty large. Smotherman, though, had a bit of a wobble, I believe. Oh, no, he had a pit stop, this time by, so he's actually managed to separate out there. So we've got a real delay here in the field down in the GT4 class.
Yeah, and Mason Smotherman is the one that is dropped back. It's Matt Smotherman that has repassed Hunter Reeve after the pit stop cycle for the front of the pro class there. So that's the thing that's been intriguing, and Hunter has lost touch with Tyler Gilmette in the process. So it's kind of reset itself back to what it was at the start.
It really has, and we're seeing that filter through here as towards the sharp end of pro, it's still going to be Reeve, Smotherman, Gilmette, although Reeve back now is behind Smotherman, making sure these three stay honest. The gap now 11 seconds for that grouping to Wallace in fourth, so our closest battle really yet. We might see a pass this time by.
It's getting very close between Matt and Hunter now, as Hunter's got a nice slipstream. But again, watch this. It's tough to go side by side. He's going to try it. He sticks his nose out. They're going to have to give each other space here coming into the roller coaster. And it looks like a little bit deeper on the brakes there for Smotherman. So he's going to come out ahead, but a nice switchback from Hunter Reeve. He's really on top of it. Just doesn't have enough grip to try and fully execute.
Yeah, not quite yet. A little bit of traffic there just ahead of them. They'll have to kind of get through on, but no problems actually. The Mercedes goes wide for them. That's Papa Knight there. As this is really now becoming a race of survival for these guys, I think, Joe. Now, the gaps between the lead groups are quite large at this time, but Connor, I needed to check his lap times because I know that Matt has pitted. Yeah, we've had a pit stop lap on lap 11 there, I think, from him. It's a splash for these guys. Not taking tires. This is just a fuel stop, I think. There's another car just off ahead there of your GT4 leader. That was actually Pepper Knight, so he was not the one that was behind him. It's just another one using a very similar color.
Yeah, so everybody's made their stops at this point. Nobody has been able to stay out up to here. So this is all just a straight race to the end. No strategy to try and overtake somebody. And the other thing is that they're all mixed up out there in terms of the two classes at this point as well. So there's no hiding from the constant flow of it. There's a full 5-second difference between the two classes. In fact, I think between the fastest of each classes, it's 10 seconds even. So it's they're going to come across each other at quite a rate of speed.
Yeah, they certainly can, which will make things quite interesting to develop there. It seems that Matt Smotherman really keeping Reeve honest here, and we saw what the evolution was for him in terms, of course, with the Skip Barber score, getting those extra speed there. He's catching up to Mr. Fantastic Matt Smotherman, who was dominant last season in the beneficiary class there. So much so that him and Hunter, they had to go to the pro class, I think, for everybody. Oh, is that a car off in front of... Oh, no!
Oh, just squeaking by. And that's that's the same spot that Matt Smotherman had his issues with traffic before. In fact, I think that was one of the cars involved. Charles Bochelle, it was, yeah.
Oh, wow. Matt Smotherman. Unfortunate there. We'll get this coming down the hill now. And I just saw it happening in slow motion. That little moment as he went a little wide and just... Oh, and he comes back and... Oh, it's one of those ones as a driver, Joe, where you know it's going to happen and you're just gritting your teeth knowing there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's you get a sense as a driver as you see the momentum of various cars, you kind of understand the physics in your head. So you know it's coming, and at that point you've already, look at Hunter Reeve though. He used that split second to do the only thing he could do, which is just kind of bop off to the side and make sure that he doesn't get collected in that. So that's going to easily hand him second place. So he doesn't have to fight for it anymore, although he's got to worry about the traffic himself. That was Richard Lanning just about has sliding in front of him now.
Yeah, a little bit of traffic making things exciting there, but a big gap between himself and Guillemette, so I think that might be on the wall there. But a solid, safe second place now with 17 seconds to Matt Smotherman behind him, although Matt, I think, has probably had to go to pit road, maybe? I don't know. That car seems to still be running, so I'm not sure if he dove down pit road there. I think he might have done. But the gap is definitely much bigger now.
Yeah, they both went down to pit lane to get repairs, unfortunately. I think we've got 2 laps to go. It looks like, 2 laps to go, because Guillemette's just hitting the line now. He's also taking advantage of that little incident because he's now a full 3.5 seconds down the road.
Absolutely. He's gone with the wind. It's all the Virginia rather than the correct state for that one. But right now, looking towards Paris, his gap is significant over Elliott. Oh, speaking of Elliott, oh gosh, Elliott just lost. Okay, I shouldn't talk about people in race cars because coming through, I think this is, just towards the start of NASCAR, Elliott decided steering was for chumps. And he went straight through a tire barrier.
He was coming across a slow car. It was Elliott Whitfield and Jesse Elliott. Tried to sneak in there. That put him off the line. And I told you it's on the limit when you're at that corner. So when he messed himself up by trying to come in at an alternate angle, when he got on the binders, the car didn't like it and off into the grass. You can't really steer as well on the green stuff. That's the first tip of racing.
No, absolutely not. And, I don't particularly watch this because it's not of much interest to me, but have you heard of the annual tank biathlon that the Russian Federation hosts?
I have not heard of that.
It's
You'll have to tell me
thing.
about that later.
Countries from, that use their vehicles from around the world go to compete in shooting, driving, obstacle courses, races. And this year apparently more of a shambles than usual because tanks were making contact on track like race cars do, and it was pretty brutal considering they're 70-ton machines. Yeah, so don't race tanks. Turns out not a great idea.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me all that much, if I'm honest, as we were watching that battle for the lead in the GT4s for a little bit. Still Mason on Parisi, and there's the white flag now for Guillemette as he flies by. So just one more to hold it together, which is easier said than done today based on what we've been seeing with some of the chaos erupting.
Absolutely. I think the track is just beating these guys a little bit more than the other cars on track. Temperatures and conditions are ideal, really, for what we expect from a race, although I think the Skybox kind of leaning into making things a little bit less grippy than they would perhaps like, but he's holding on very well. It's been a solid run for Tyler Guillemette here. One more time around for him, and not a huge amount of traffic to really contend with. Conor Parise as well is looking solid here. He has had Mason Smotherman right on his bumper this entire time, Joe. And as they get the white flag, is this when Mason makes a move? Oh god, that was great, that rhymed.
I think, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, he thinks the same, but look at the traffic once again being a part of it. If that car was not there, he probably would have had a good chance. So that was some luck on the side of Conor, but it's not over. He's going to get a couple other opportunities if he can stay as close as he is. He's less than a car length back. Look at that.
There's a definite tone shift, I think, in Mason's driving here. They're different classes, obviously, open and beneficiary, but it's GT4 versus GT4. It's basically a race here between these two. And Mason is being much more aggressive than we've seen before. We have a race on our hands here for the top of the GT4 combined classes. And they're both technically going to win their class, no matter what order these two finish in. But let's be really honest here. The GT4 cars are racing each other for the win of the GT4 car.
Yeah, you're in the same level machinery, so you want to try and
leader
win out, and here we go for the win.
Round a lap car there. Tyler Guillemette with no challenge, 3.5 second gap to Reeve, will come across the line to win at VIR. Hunter Reeve as well just behind him, and Martin Wallace coming towards the line now for the final corner. Will flick back towards Smotherman and Parisi. The gap has widened after Oak Tree. We're on the last straight here, the big straight down the back before the roller coaster, and I don't know if he's got room to catch up here, or he's going to play this safe and just stick with winning the class. But it's right there. He's right on top of him. He's looking for any opportunity. Absolutely just eyeing that up, and I think the gap's maybe a little bit too much with only 2 corners remaining here. I don't think it's going to change. Your open and beneficiary class leaders coming to the line, although a big sprint out the corner there, as we'll come towards the line, and I think it's going to go to Parisi here for the beneficiaries over Mason Smotherman for the open class win. Behind them, Adam Poppenhaus will come across for second place for the beneficiaries. Thomas Utzen, second for the open class. And then it's Brock Hogan and Greg Meismer for the beneficiaries, with Brian Winker just coming down the back straight here for third for your open class. Joe, a tricky race here at VIR with track conditions, I think.
This is kind of what I expected, if I'm honest. It looks like it's not over between Brian Winker and John Winker racing together here. They're going to be, I think, the last ones to finish and get across the line. So who's going to be able to be the fastest of the family?
Well, we called them the Blink, but there's 2 Winkers.
I like that.
Here we go, coming across the line now between the pair of them as they'll wrap up that section of this one. Wow, a very busy time on track today here at VIR, and definitely not an easy race for these guys. So whilst we wait for the last of the cars to come across the line, we're going to remind you a little bit more about Operation Motorsport. They're a veteran-led and operated not-for-profit based in Brighton, Ontario and Raleigh, North Carolina. They serve Canadian and American service members and veterans, and was founded on the basis of 3 simple words: excite, engage, and empower. The premise is to engage ill and injured service members and veterans affected by military service through motorsport activities to aid in their recovery and rehabilitation. To find out more information, please visit operationmotorsport.org. Well, let's go to our final race results here at Virginia International Raceway. Tyler Guillemette wins for your Pro class with Hunter Reeve in second place, Martin Wallace in third, Rodney Campbell fourth with Matt Smotherman in fifth in the end there. after a late race donk. Mario Gonzalez in 6th, Jake Steinbrink 7th, Daniel Curio in 8th place, Taylor Parsons 9th, Scott Andrews in the 10th place. Then it's Jason McSparron, Dustin Burkhalter, and Ed Nelson for that class. Coming up next for your beneficiaries, we have Connor Parise here, with Adam Poppenhaus, Brock Hogan, Greg Meismer, Brian, and John Winker. For the beneficiaries, with Philippe Chartier, Brian Knight, and Elliot Whitfield. For the open class, it is the winner there, Mason Smotherman, Thomas Oetsen, Brian Winker, Rick Haslett, Val Asieno, Jesse Elliott, Jake Porter, Charles Bushell, Richard Lanning, David Holly, Bradley Beeman, coming to the end of our field here. Well, it is time to have a quick chat to our winners from your beneficiary class. We'll see if any of them are going to pop in here for a conversation with us, Joe. But how was your first round of Operation eMotorsport?
I have to say it was a ton of fun to watch. It was some very entertaining racing, also some great battles, and for some of the very high positions. A bit sad we didn't get to cover some of the fights farther back, because there definitely was some good racing back there, but they kept us on our toes for podium positions all day.
Absolutely did. Well, speaking of which, we're going to get a chance to chat to the beneficiary winner tonight, Connor Parisi, coming home today with the victory. It was a busy thing with you guys for the first half of the race, and then it seemed to be just you and, towards the end, Mason. But tell us about that first half of the race. It was all over the place, I think.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. These GT4s are a handful around here. I think it was Adam that got a wicked good jump off the line. So I think we were 3 wide going into turn 1, and then he took the lead. And then, yeah, it was me and Mason just kind of, I don't know if they pitted and ran into issues in the traffic or whatnot. I'm not sure what happened with the other 3 or 4 guys, but yeah, wicked fun race tonight.
Certainly seemed that way, of course. Now, we do have an off week coming up, and then we go to Sebring on the 20th. How's Sebring for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm going to miss that race. It's my anniversary with the wife, so I don't know if I'll be making that one, but I'll see what I can do there.
That seems like an absolutely valid reason to miss a race. So we'll forgive you if we don't see you then. I think we know who comes first in that equation. But
she's on top of the podium for sure.
There you go. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, I got to thank you guys for putting on a great show. Apex Gaming PCs, Next Level Racing, Pimax, 10-7 Race Wraps, all the guys at GMB Esports, Dirtfish Rally School, and the Opmo guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Connor Parisi coming home with a win tonight for the beneficiary class. Well, next up is Adam Poppenhaus, who'll be talking to Joe Peak. Well, I'll be talking to Adam. That also works. Adam, busy race night it seemed for you guys, especially the start. Tell me about that.
I had a pretty good jump on the start. I thought it was fun, but yeah, it was very busy. I kind of got caught there at the end of Hogpen. So it was definitely a weird place to begin the race, but it worked out for me. But yeah, it was fun.
Certainly seemed that way. Of course, the race overall seemed to evolve quite a lot, and I believe you had a bit of a moment partway through which kind of set you back.
Yeah, I was looking at the relative, and my teammate Thomas was behind me, so we were going to go for the undercut. But unfortunately, he's having to gamble. We caught some traffic coming out there, and afterwards, and weren't able to make up the time that we needed. So we kind of just got ducks in a row, and if you will, and got to the checkered flag.
Well, you got there in the end. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Well, Operation Motorsports, obviously, they're just been an incredibly powerful influence in my life, and also Resilience Racing and Race 22.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Adam Poppenhaus coming on today in second. Well, next up is going to be Brock Hogan, who I believe this time will be standing by with Joe Peak.
Yep, second time's a charm. Just had a few technical issues, and we've got Brock with us with a fifth place here, but a third in his class there for the beneficiaries. Brock, it looked like the guys in front of you were having a whole bunch of fun, but you couldn't really seem to get fully involved on that. If they had kept fighting a bit more, do you think there was a chance that maybe you could have fought for the overall in the GT4s?
Well, I'd like to. Those guys are pretty fast, though, and VIR is very hard to pass at, in my opinion. So I was pretty happy with what I did, and just because some of the guys that did get past are more in my league than Adam and such.
We were talking a lot coming into this one, how this is such a technical track. And obviously you guys had places like Road America to start, which is a different feel to that one. How did you take to VIR today? Did you like the experience, or are you glad to see the other side of this one?
No, I had a lot of fun with the experience. I think it's a really fun track. Even though I say it's hard to pass at, I love coming out to VIR here virtually or whatever. And Opmo was just a lot of fun racing against all these guys.
Yeah, it can be a very rewarding track, that's for sure. But hope you've maybe got some muscle relaxers or something for next time, because we're heading over to Sebring for the next round. Have you had much experience over in the bumps in Florida?
Unfortunately, I've never been there personally, but on the virtual stuff here, I race it all the time. It's one of my favorite tracks, so I think that's going to be a fun one.
Well, again, fantastic job getting on the podium in class and a top 5 overall for the GT4s. Anybody you want to give a shout out while we've got you?
Just a quick one for all Operation Motorsport guys like Tiffany Diesel, Chris for helping set this up, and my daughter for picking the color of my car.
I love it. And it's a very eye-catching color. That was Brock Hogan that we were just talking to, P5 amongst the GT4s. Rachel, it sounds like you might have one more to talk to.
I think we do. Well, thanks for joining us, Brock. Congratulations on third. We'll move him down now as we've got Tyler Guillemette joining us here from the winning position of the Pro Class. Tyler, very busy race tonight, although I think it's got a lot easier in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, it was a really busy race, but the open and the beneficiary class guys did a great job, holding their lines and making it our job easy to get past them. What a race.
It certainly seemed that way. Going to keep this one quick. We need to have a chat to Hunter as well here, but obviously Sebring in 2 weeks' time, a track you'll be strong at, do you think?
Well, I hope so. I've had luck there in the past. Hopefully it continues. First couple rounds this season were not so great, so hope this a turnaround.
Well, we will see. Anybody would like to give a shout out to?
Just all of Operation Motorsports and you guys at Podium Esports. Thanks for carrying the races.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tyler Guillemette, joining us from the winning position of the Pro Class. Well, next up, and last but not least, Joe is talking to Hunter Reeve, who is a beneficiary, but was too darn fast, so they moved into Pro.
And speaking of beneficiary, Hunter, you were fighting for that second place all race long, and it wound up being traffic that gave it to you.
I actually felt bad for Matt because I was having a lot of fun battling him. So, but yeah, I'll take second in Pro. It's tough.
And it did get separated for a bit because before the pit stops, again, in the same corner, traffic kind of held him up and set him backwards. But then after the pit stops, he was ahead of you. Did you just have a slow stop, or what exactly happened?
No, I think he did a better fuel calculation than I did. I'll be honest. Yeah.
So that explains that one. Then I was a bit surprised to see him show up there. But as much as we talked about how hard it is to try and pass at this place with all the battling that you did have, were you kind of on your toes or maybe I guess a better way to phrase it is on your guard for this one, trying to fight? Because it's a pretty narrow track and it's so easy to throw it away here.
Yeah. It was just tough because I felt like I could have caught Tyler, but he caught traffic at the right time, and I didn't. And it's the same with Matt. So traffic played a big factor, but it made it more challenging. I had fun, so yeah.
It looked like a lot of fun, honestly. But we're heading off to Sebring, so obviously we hope to see you there. Is there anybody that you want to thank that helped put you on the podium today?
Yeah, big thanks to Chris Ramirez. He runs this whole thing. You guys, thanks for a great broadcast. And yeah.
Great stuff. That was the 44 of Hunter Reeve taking second in the pro class today, which is going to hand us back to Rachel.
Well, it certainly is. And, well, you are right. We are off now. So thank you very much to the series partners of Operation Motorsport, iRacing League, iRacing, and the USA of North Carolina. For Jason Leach, Diesel Loader, Chris Ramirez, and the entire Operation Motorsport team. For Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, John Theodore at Podium Esports, camera builder Dougie Beard, our producer this evening, Ryan Bauer, Cameron Obernon on social media, and for my colleague this evening, Joe Peak. I'm your host, Rachel Whiteford. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the Operation E Motorsport iRacing League, and we wish you a good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Sebring.
On Remembrance Veterans Day weekend, November 2022, Operation Motorsport is returning to Anglesey Circuit, Wales, United Kingdom to compete in the 12-hour Race of Remembrance. This event allows our beneficiaries to compete as a team, shoulder to shoulder, with other veterans and racers. We want to use this opportunity to honor your hero service. And for a $25 donation, we will place your hero's name on the hood of our race car. 100% of the donations received will be used to support our Race of Remembrance operation. Help us honor 500 heroes and donate today.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn them. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.